Welcome back. Have you ever downplayed an achievement at work or felt like a fraud when you're congratulated? We all do this, you know, now and again. But research shows if these fears keep recurring, it could be linked to what's called imposter syndrome.
So here to tell us exactly what that is and how to deal with our internal imposter is sociologist and author, Professor Maja.
Welcome back, Professor Maja. So I feel like people hear a lot about imposter syndrome these days. So for those who haven't heard about it, what exactly is it?
The imposter syndrome is the inability to own your success. You're constantly questioning yourself, doubting yourself. You feel like at any given moment, you're going to get found out as an imposter or a fraud, that somehow you don't belong here. And when you do succeed at something, you don't feel joyful. You just feel relieved and then anxious about how am I going to recreate that initial success?
So now that we know what it is, Maja, how do we know whether or not we suffer from it?
Okay, so there are a few characteristics. Number one, the need to be perfect at everything. So the expectation is flawlessness. Got a lot of right? Because you set impossible standards for yourself. And then when you fail at perfection, as we all would, then you feel like a failure. The second point is a fear of failure that looms over everything you do. And instead of being your own cheerleader, instead of constantly pumping yourself up, you question your very existence. You second guess yourself. And the third is we cannot own our accomplishments. We constantly minimize the praise we get. We undervalue ourselves. And then we become superstars. We are gold medalists at the sport of minimizing and coming up with every excuse as to why we don't deserve that success. And then it's minimize, deflect, and around we go.
So let's talk about what that sounds like in day-to-day communications and interpersonal interactions, because language is powerful.
Yes. Oh, so it's all the hedging we do before we give our opinion. So let's say you're at work and you want to say something, or you're out to dinner with friends. Instead of just giving your opinion, you say, this is gonna sound silly, but, oh, this is a stupid idea, but, like, what? What is going on here? Why don't you just give your opinion? What? Yes. So what's happening is we are planting seeds of doubt where there was no doubt to begin with, and that only chips away at our confidence.
So most of the writing online, especially these days about imposter syndrome, is related to women. Is it women that feel this, or do men experience it as well?
It's all of us. It's men, it's women, it's young, it's old, it's regardless of income, education, or accomplishments. We all experience it at some point. And the original researchers wanted to call it the imposter experience, because that's how common it is. 70% of us at some point in our lives will feel this. If you are constantly denying your own successes, doubting yourself, that's the imposter syndrome creeping in.
Okay, so if no one is immune to it,
Yeah.
then why is it so closely associated with women?
Both men and women experience it. Women experience it more. And there's 30 years of research to back that up. Because we internalize our failures. So when we make a mistake, we think we are the mistake. And once that self-doubt starts, it's difficult to stop, because then every mistake you make is just further evidence of your own perceived incompetence. But most importantly, we live in a world of double standards where women are held to a higher standard. And I'm gonna give you an example. When one woman fails, it's dangerous for all of us, because they don't say, oh, Sarah's not leadership material. What do they say? Women aren't good leaders, right? And it's so much worse for women of color, who then need to represent both their gender and their race, and men aren't held to the same standard. When men express anger, they're viewed as higher status. When women express anger, like Serena Williams did last week, she's viewed as out of control. When we have emotional outbursts, we can't be contained. We're viewed as less competent. When men have emotional outbursts, they're viewed as more passionate. They know what they're doing. Men are not held to the same standard of representing their own social group the way women are.
So many people can relate to this.
Yeah.
So if they're listening and thinking about this, what's the first step that they can take in terms of overcoming imposter syndrome?
This is so important. I want you to figure out the lie that you have told yourself for years. It's called the crusher. because it crushes our confidence and it crushes our spirit. It is an automatic negative thought that has developed over years. So if your crusher statement is, I'm not smart enough, I shouldn't speak up, you switch it to a direction that says, I have an opinion, I have a voice, and I have the right to express myself. And if your crusher statement is, I'm a failure, I always mess up, then you switch it and you say, I have the right to fail, I have the right to make a mistake because it's called being human. That's how we own it.
Okay. And give us some more tips to really break through feeling like a fraud.
Stop with the negative self-talk. Oh my goodness, why are we so harsh on ourselves? Keep track of how often you're using awful negative words to describe a failure you had. Stop planting seeds of doubt. Number 2, rejoice in the failure. Start talking about failure openly with others so that we take that stigma away. And number 3, say thank you. When you are praised or complimented on anything, thank you. That's it. That's it. Oh my gosh, please resist the urge to deflect and minimize.
Big one. Yeah. Big. Okay. There's a lot of parents and caregivers out there, and listen, let's try not to create a problem so that we have to fix the problem. So how do we raise our children to prevent this issue from occurring?
I'm so glad you used the word prevent because it's not about prevention. It's about building resilience through everyday strategy. So number 1, when you're praising, be specific. Avoid that awful phrase, good job. Oh, that was such a good job. What is that? That's useless. That means nothing. This is what you say. You're specific. So you say, look at how much better you're riding that two-wheeler now that you've spent every weekend practicing. You tie the effort to the progress, okay? Number 2, okay, yeah, all right, we'll clap for that one. That's a good one. Number 2 is we talk to them about failure so that we teach them that failing is information. That's all it is. So every day when they come home from school, we say, what did you mess up on today? Let's break it down. And then we talk about our failures so that we link our failing to failing, trying, failing, success. Because then failure is just seen as a positive moment for them, right? And then the last is we record their successes. And it doesn't have to be something major like, oh, they just won this huge award. It could be something like, you just picked up that piece of litter on the sidewalk without being asked. That's community spirit. You're being a good neighbor. That's how it's done.
Oh, Maja, this is great. Thank you so much for being here. Always great to have you with us. Check out Professor Maja's book, Hey Lady, Stop Apologizing, on Amazon. It's available now. We'll be right back.